The bold and the beautiful spoilers for the next 3 weeks, August 11th to August 29th, predict that Luna Nozawa will awaken, while Bill Spencer seeks revenge on Grace Buckingham. Sheila Sharp and Lee Finnegan also appear to be making a deal, so here's what B&B has planned. The week of August 11th to 15th will offer Sheila's queries concerning Luna's fabricated death, and why Lee is fighting so hard to save her. Lee will explain how she couldn't abandon Luna because she was raised by Poppy Nozawa and had a difficult childhood. Sheila and Lee may strike a quiet pact before Luna emerges from her coma. Luna should be taken aback when she realizes how much her grandma are risking for her. Bill will be furious when Liam Spencer and Hope Logan disclose Grace's $1 million fraud. Bill will seek vengeance and intends to make sure Grace pays for her misdeeds. If the court system does not punish Grace severely enough, Bill may take matters into his own hands. In the meantime, let's talk about Nick Marone's marriage proposal, as he will really bring out a ring and try to persuade Brooke Logan to marry him. Brooke will most certainly turn Nick down since she believes she still has a chance with Ridge Forrester. But Ridge isn't ready to commit to a Brooke reunion yet. Ridge will continue to feel obligated to Taylor Hayes and all of the promises he has made, making things complicated. Taylor intends to keep her ring on and carry forward with Ridge's wedding arrangements, but his feelings for Brooke will only grow stronger from here. Destiny will bring Brooke and Ridge back together, but there will be some delays and challenges along the way. At Il Giardino, a private party will begin. It will still be going on for the week of August 18th to 22nd, so look for Deacon to greet the guests and present a nice spread for the reservation. Brooke, Katie Logan, Will Spencer, Electra Forrester, and other characters will attend this celebration. It could be a ploy to celebrate increased sales following the Naples and Capri vacation, but it could also be something else. Liam may not have cancer, but he survived thinking he did. Of course, Liam survived that awful event at the beach home, so there are strong reasons to celebrate his survival. Whatever the situation, Sheila may sneak away to see Luna while Deacon is engaged with the celebration. Deacon becomes increasingly suspicious when Sheila disappears. Hope Logan may be dealing with major Daphne Rose drama from August 25th to 29th. Daphne's longer stay in Los Angeles will allow her to bring Carter Walton closer and jeopardize Hope's engagement. Brooke will be dissatisfied with Ridge's handling of the Taylor situation. It will be difficult to persuade Ridge to leave Taylor, but Brooke will know deep down that Ridge is the only man for her. According to the bold and the beautiful spoilers, the following 3 weeks will be filled with excitement, so keep an eye out for any startling news. According to the bold and the beautiful teasers, Sheila Carter Sharp solved the latest mystery faster than the last one. Lee Nozawa maintained John Finn Finnegan's status secret for a longer amount of time than Luna Nozawa. Devoted viewers know that Dr. Nozawa breached her medical oath and several laws by stating her adoptive son died after being shot by Sheila years ago on soap opera. Brown's character eventually realized that something was wrong and discovered that Lee was keeping Finn alive in a secret location. This time, Sheila discovered Lee's attempt to conceal another alleged death. She followed the nice doctor from University Hospital to the small room where Lee had been caring for Luna, who had never died. Being in the right place in Los Angeles, what were the chances that Sheila would happen to be at the hospital while Lee was gathering medical supplies? In the daylight, those odds were 1:1. That tragic fortune also aided the plot, as Lee ran into Sheila and dumped the goods on the floor. One bottle was left behind, and Sheila's medical background as a nurse proved beneficial. Sheila was aware that the precise medicine Lee was using was linked to Luna's inexplicable disappearance. Sheila's interaction with the lab worker also proved beneficial. April, the hospital lab technician, checked the computer and noticed that there was no record of where Luna's remains were located. Lee Nozawa felt bad for her niece, Poppy Nozawa, whom she had long disliked. She thought her younger sister was irresponsible. Matsuda's character suspected that her sister had an affair with Jack Finnegan decades ago. Poppy was found to be innocent of the claim. However, she had an illicit relationship with Finn when he first started college, which is how Luna was born. The bold and the beautiful spoilers. Sheila and Lee form alliance. Luna's life creates bond. Lee's brief reconciliation with Poppy came to an end when she discovered Luna's paternity. Luna later went insane, killing 2 people and attempting to kill Steffi Forrester Finnegan. Luna's incredible release from jail, pardon, and subsequent shootings resulted in her apparent death. sparking Lee's latest extraordinary protective attempt. Sheila Carter Sharp is on board Lee, and Sheila became close after Luna was thought to have died. They did it because they adored Yamada's character. Sheila was astonished by Lee's heart-to-heart conversation with her at Il Giardino. During that conversation, Lee saw that Sheila was the only other person who had offered Luna sympathy. So a pleasant summer twist looks to exist. Unless things change, which is conceivable, Sheila can work with Lee to help Luna continue her secret recuperation. Luna Nozawa is in a precarious state, her life caught between oblivion and awareness. In the tense stillness of the hospital room, two tough women, Sheila Sharp and Lee Finnegan, keep an eye on her, their emotions a tapestry of dread, determination, and something more. Lee explains with sweet determination in her eyes how she couldn't forsake Luna, recalling the sad memories of Luna's rough history under Papi Nozawa's shaky care, a past marred by neglect and anguish. Lee's maternal belief strengthens her determination as she remembers what Luna has gone through. Sheila, whose relationship with Luna has been fraught with deception and horror, reacts to Lee's explanation with a trembling mix of adoration and anxiety. She realizes Luna is more than just a feared victim. She is a grandchild whose survival may necessitate sacrifices greater than Sheila could have dreamed. As Luna's life hangs in the balance, Sheila and Lee strike a tenuous truce, a covenant of silence that binds them in secret and mutual protection. Nobody else should know how far they've gone to save Luna, no matter the cost. The pacts they make feel like vows engraved into thin ice, with firmness measured in half-spoken promises and the unspoken fear that everything may crumble at the slightest movement. Then reality strikes when Luna opens her eyelids, fragile at first, then more alert. Her awakening sends the room into a frenzy of emotion, relief, dread, hope, and remorse. Luna's waking is not a peaceful return, but rather an abrupt crash. She notices Sheila and Lee leaning in, their expressions distorted with dread and possibly relief. Luna's eyes flare with unspoken questions. Why did they put so much at stake for her? What negotiations were made in the dark, while she lay unconscious? Across town, word of Luna's arrival spreads through power and secret corridors. Bill Spencer, enraged, is compelled to take action after learning that Grace Buckingham's sophisticated $1 million swindle has been discovered. The treachery fills him with simmering wrath. Instead of rescue and salvation, he is facing a tidal wave of retribution. Legal justice may be sluggish or insufficient, muddied by loopholes and legalese, and Bill's patience becomes thin. Driven by a fundamental desire for vengeance, he decides that if the courts fail, he will not. Bill will make sure Grace pays, by any means necessary. His mentor's creed, that justice can be created with one's own hands, takes root. The air around Bill is filled with the frightening energy that comes before a storm. Meanwhile, Luna is doing what she has always done best, evaluating the alliances around her with cool precision. She understands that while her grandmother's pact saved her life, it may have also entangled them in layers of guilt and duty. Her mind has become lucid, calculating, aware, and potentially dangerous. The question remains: will thankfulness guide her next steps, or will a darker inclination take over? Does she appreciate the protective love she has been given, or does she perceive it as a tool to manipulate and sway results in her favor? Bill's retribution campaign is meticulously planned, with each move measured yet ruthless in aim. Meanwhile, Sheila and Lee's friendship, which was originally based on awkward need, has deepened and become more delicate. They've become co-conspirators in a plot neither of them planned to be a part of. Protectors of Luna, bound by a secret no one else can know. Luna's eyes are searching and analyzing. Confusion, despair, and ambition flare over her face. The hospital walls, which were previously clean and impersonal, now carry the electricity of shifting alliances, unspoken loyalties, and hazardous information. As she sits up, her eyes is drawn to Sheila and Lee, whose arms tremble in anticipation of scolding, gratitude, or betrayal. Luna's voice, when it comes, will bear the weight of someone reborn into a world that has both saved her and held her captive through deception. Bill is standing elsewhere, enraged and strategizing, more impetuous and dangerous than ever. Grace is his aim and justice is the weapon. In his opinion, the courtroom is insufficient, slow, and overly courteous. Bill will pronounce his own rapid and irreversible verdict. Back in the hospital room, Luna, Sheila, and Lee are caught up in a web of secrets. A life saved, a crime confessed, and a quiet preserved. Each of them understands that one wrong move may destroy everything. Luna may feel grateful, suspicious, or something in between. Sheila may be able to breathe easier now that Luna is alive, but she is concerned that her granddaughter may use that gratitude as power. Lee may believe she protected her family, but she sees the cost in every shared glance and suppressed confession. They sat together, silhouetted in half-light, connected by love, terror, and secrets. Luna's consciousness flickers between memory and uncertainty, reawakening to the smell of antiseptic, the sound of monitors, and faces she thought she'd never see again. Sheila and Lee wait, their hearts beating, unsure whether respite or reckoning awaits. Outside, Bill's plans for vengeance are already coming together. Vengeance practiced in his head, justice supplanted with reckoning. Each character is at a crossroads. Luna is torn between rejuvenation and manipulation, Bill between justice and vengeance, and Sheila and Lee between secrecy and revelation. The impact of Luna's awakening will reverberate across, shattering illusions, forging new alliances, and fanning fires of vengeance that could engulf them all. Sheila was never the type of person who let others in readily. Her existence, woven together by half-healed scars and guarded glances, was a protracted exercise in keeping the world at arm's length. She was efficient, organized, and cautious about entanglements. That is how she survived. However, life has a knack of putting certain people in our path who disarm us, slipping past our fortifications not because they force their way in, but because their presence renders the walls superfluous. Sheila encountered that person in the guise of Lee. Lee was quiet, but not in a way that indicated he had nothing to say. Rather, her quiet felt like a form of listening, one that could bear the weight of another person's hidden truths without passing judgment. She walked with steady confidence, and her eyes appeared to perceive far more than they did. The two women met in circumstances that could have stayed incidental. An overlapping project, a shared place, a few friendly discussions. But Luna altered everything. Luna wasn't human, she was a cat. A little slate-gray creature with amber eyes and an uncanny ability to arrive unexpectedly. Sheila had taken Luna in almost by mistake 2 years ago, when the cat limped into her yard on a rainy evening. At first, she told herself she'd keep the animal until she discovered its owner. Days stretched into weeks and weeks into months, and before Sheila knew it, Luna had become more than just a companion. She was a tether, anchoring her in moments when loneliness threatened to become permanent. Lee noticed Luna the first time she went to Sheila's place. The animal, which typically avoided strangers, strolled right up to Lee and rubbed against her legs like an old friend. Sheila was astonished. Luna was not one to show affection without a thorough vetting process. Lee merely leaned down and scratched behind Luna's ears with the confidence of someone who had known the cat for years. There was no discomfort or coaxing, only a quiet mutual recognition between them. That brief moment marked the beginning of something Sheila and Lee could not yet name. Over the next few weeks, the two women found themselves thrust together more frequently. Workplace emergencies necessitated late evenings. A community function demanded both of their participation. Sheila found herself lingering after meetings, not because she had anything else to say, but because Lee made quiet pleasant. Conversations between them were not forced. They flowed freely, frequently in the gaps between required words. Luna was constantly present, whether perched in a nearby chair, weaving around their legs, or curling in Lee's lap as if she had been waiting for her the entire time. Sheila called Lee over for tea one evening, following a particularly grueling day. She had no plan for conversation and only intended to provide a calm space for both of them to exhale. The kettle hissed softly on the stove as rain pattered against the windows. Lee sat at the little kitchen table, absent-mindedly sketching circles on the wood grain as Luna dozed nearby. When Sheila laid down the mugs, Lee looked up and said, "She trusts you completely." Sheila believed she meant Luna, but Lee shook her head slightly, as if she had read her mind. Not only her. People notice stuff like that, even if you don't. Sheila wasn't sure what to respond. Compliments had always made her uneasy, but something about Lee's tone made them feel less like flattery, and more like a straightforward statement of truth. "Trust isn't easy," Sheila finally said. Lee's eyes softened. "No, but it is worth the effort." They sat for a long time sipping tea, the silence between them pleasant rather than empty. Sheila and Lee's alliance was not based on mutual ambition or convenience. It evolved in the peaceful hours, via modest acts of kindness and unguarded moments. Lee began to stop by more frequently, sometimes bringing fresh bread from a bakery, sometimes with nothing but a desire to sit and share a meal. Sheila found herself opening up, not in big admissions, but in incremental revelations that felt momentous all the same. She told Lee about the day Luna arrived, how she brought the moist, trembling cat into the kitchen and muttered, "It's okay now," not knowing whether she was reassuring the animal or herself. Lee in turn provided details from her own life. She spoke of growing up in many nations and the difficulties of belonging nowhere and everywhere at the same time. She talked about her grandmother's garden, the only place she'd ever felt genuinely at home. When Lee said it, Sheila could practically smell the damp dirt and see the rows of herbs bending in the wind. Their friendship gradually evolved into a tacit partnership, recognizing that they had found a kindred soul in each other. They began to collaborate beyond the scope of their work. When Sheila mentioned a community initiative she was considering, Lee offered to assist. They spent lengthy weekends painting signs, arranging supplies, and devising strategies to make the venture sustainable. Luna, of course, directed the entire operation from her favorite chair, occasionally batting at the edge of a paintbrush. Sheila hadn't always been without friends. She had, but they had always been at a certain distance, like visible but unattainable stars. The distance was no longer an issue for Lee. There was a sense of mutual reliance that neither of them had intentionally sought, but both embraced without hesitation. Lee's car broke down, so Sheila went across town at midnight to pick her up. When Sheila became unwell, Lee arrived with soup, groceries, and selfless care. Sheila caught herself staring at Lee across the kitchen one afternoon, months after their first meaningful talk. Lee was laughing, genuinely laughing, at something trivial and foolish, her eyes bright and unrestrained. Luna was cuddled in her lap and purring like an engine. The sight struck Sheila with an unexpected clarity. This was how safe she felt. Not the absence of danger, but the presence of someone who can see and accept your true self. Their alliance evolved with the changing seasons. It began to expand beyond the scope of their personal lives. They went on short adventures together, such as day trips to surrounding towns and treks through forest paths with the scent of pine and moist leaves. Luna stayed at home on those journeys, but her absence did not diminish her importance. She remained the subtle link that had first brought them together. On one such journey, as they stood on a cliffside watching the sun fade into the horizon, Sheila muttered, almost instinctively, "It's strange. If not for Luna, we may have remained strangers." Lee smiled slightly. Sometimes it takes a living reminder to notice what's already there. Sheila reflected. Perhaps she had noticed Lee before Luna intervened, but she doubted she would have had the courage to close the gap on her own. Back in their city life, obstacles arose as they usually do. Sheila's employment took an unexpected turn, requiring more of her time and effort. Lee had her own upheaval when a family issue forced her to fly abroad for many weeks. Their communication was irregular at the time, with occasional messages and brief phone calls when time zones coincided. Sheila missed her in unexpected ways, and the absence of their easy companionship left her with a quiet sorrow. Luna seems to notice, frequently sitting at the door in the evenings, as if waiting for Lee to arrive. When Lee returned, there was no dramatic reunion, just a knock on the door, Luna's happy meow, and the normal cadence of discussion resumed where it had left off. That was the essence of their connection. Stable, durable, and unaffected by distance. They began to speak tentatively about the future. Not great ambitions but shared visions. A community place they could build together, gardens for neighbors to meet, and classes for skills and crafts. Sheila was shocked to find herself picturing these things not as distant fantasies, but as feasible realities, because Lee was present, and with her, the burden of the task felt lighter. During one of these conversations, Sheila recognized that the bond they shared was more than just coincidence. Yes, Luna had been the trigger, but what had developed between them was the consequence of their mutual decision. Day after day they had chosen to be present for each other, to listen, to trust, and to weave their lives together in subtle and significant ways. On a cold winter night, with snow drifting past the windows, they sat in the living room, a fire crackling in the fireplace. Luna lay comfortably on the mat, soaking up the warmth. Lee was reading with her feet curled beneath her, while Sheila nursed a cup of coffee. Outside, the world was quiet. Sheila gazed around the room and reflected on how odd all of this would have appeared to her a year ago. The warmth, ease, and sense of belonging. She reached down and absently stroked Luna's fur, sensing the cat's constant purr beneath her palm. When she looked at Lee, she noticed she was watching with a knowing smile in her eyes. They did not need to say anything. Some relationships didn't need continual validation. They just existed like gravity, keeping everything in place. And as Sheila leaned back, allowing the silence envelope her, she realized that whatever obstacles lied ahead, she and Lee would tackle them together. Not because they had to, but because they chose to.